There's an unsettling phenomenon that occurs in our daily lives, but one that we rarely admit to ourselves: the undeniable allure people with deep-seated insecurities have for individuals in positions of toxic power. Research has shown that this inexplicable attraction stems from a fundamental human need for validation, which causes us to seek external sources of control and superiority, even if it means sacrificing our own emotional well-being. We've all seen it in our friends, family members, or even ourselves, blindly drawn to charismatic leaders who use manipulation and coercion to get what they want, ignoring warning signs and rational thinking along the way. In this video, we're going to delve into the darkest corners of the human psyche, exposing the hidden dynamics that drive this unholy alliance and revealing the devastating consequences it brings to those around us. When we're deeply entrenched in our insecurities, we're drawn to people who seem to exude power, as if their confidence can be transferred to us, momentarily validating our own sense of self-worth. These individuals with toxic power are often masters of manipulation, feeding off our insecurities and vulnerabilities, but beneath their charm lies a desire to prove their own self-worth, which they are unable to find in themselves. At the heart of this unholy alliance lies a fundamental imbalance, where the insecure person desperately seeks external validation, and the toxic power seeker exploits this yearning for control, often camouflaging it as affection or care. By investing in someone with toxic power, the insecure person is essentially seeking a way out of their own feelings of inadequacy. But in doing so, they sacrifice their self-respect and autonomy, becoming increasingly entangled in a web of psychological dependencies. This toxic dynamic is often shrouded in self-deception, as both parties involved may genuinely believe they are helping or loving each other, when in reality, they are being held hostage by their own insecurities and a desire for validation that can never be fully satisfied. Ultimately, the all-consuming nature of this attraction stems from an unacknowledged fear of being powerless or insignificant, a primal urge that drives us to latch onto anything that might temporarily alleviate our insecurities, no matter how poisonous the cost may be. Individuals with deep-seated insecurities crave validation above all else, and they are willing to do just about anything to capture that fleeting sense of importance. Their fixation on power often stems from a desperate attempt to compensate for their own feelings of inadequacy, a misguided pursuit to prove their worth through association. In their pursuit of validation, insecure individuals frequently misinterpret kindness as weakness and strength as control, a tragic reversal of what these traits truly represent. Their attraction to toxic power is, on a fundamental level, an attempt to escape the suffocating grip of their own emotional pain, often by attaching themselves to someone who can provide a brief respite from their suffering. But beneath the surface of this supposed rescue lies a twisted game of cat and mouse, with the insecure person seeking to manipulate and control their partner in an effort to stave off the crushing weight of their own self-doubt. When we're drawn to toxic power, it's often a desperate attempt to fill the void within ourselves, a validation that we're worthy of love and connection, regardless of how destructive the cost may be. The line between vulnerability and manipulation can be incredibly thin, and it's precisely this ambiguity that makes insecure individuals so magnetically attracted to power, even if it's toxic. At its core, our fixation on controlling others is really about compensating for our own feelings of powerlessness. By dominating or manipulating others, we momentarily regain a sense of control over our chaotic world. People often justify toxic relationships as a means to an end, believing that the ends justify the abuse, but in reality, we're merely using others as a means to satisfy our own unfulfilled needs, perpetuating a vicious cycle of exploitation. What drives us to surrender our autonomy to someone we know we shouldn't is often rooted in a deep-seated fear of rejection and abandonment. By seeking validation through toxic relationships, We're actually attempting to mitigate the risk of being left behind or unworthy. It's ironic that those who are most desperate for love and connection often find themselves in the most loveless and toxic relationships, all the while convincing themselves that they've landed the relationship of their dreams, further perpetuating their own self-deception and descent into darkness. The most insidious trait of toxic power is its ability to exploit our deepest insecurities, turning them into an insatiable hunger for validation and attention. Toxic power preys on those who crave control, manipulating their insecurities into a desperate craving for anyone to take charge and make them feel secure. It's a clever trick. Really, the insecure individual is drawn to the toxic power, hoping for validation and a sense of control, but what they are actually getting is a cleverly crafted illusion that slowly devours their autonomy and self-worth. The toxic power manipulator is expertly aware of their own vulnerabilities and insecurities, using this self-awareness to create a cleverly crafted sense of control over those around them. What often goes unacknowledged is the self-deception that plagues both the toxic power manipulator and their insecure followers. The delusion that they are worthy of love and respect, as long as they are feeding their partner's ego and anxieties. Ultimately, the attraction to toxic power is rooted in the deep-seated fear of losing control, and the desperate need for someone or something to fill the void left by our deepest insecurities. When victims of abuse defend their abusers, they are not simply being delusional. They are desperately trying to maintain a sense of control and validation that's been ripped from them, often through a deeply ingrained need for self-esteem and acceptance. Their attraction to the toxic power is rooted in a deep-seated insecurity, a primal urge to attach themselves to someone who can provide a sense of stability and comfort, no matter how destructive the cost may be to their own well-being. We see this time and time again, the same patterns emerging, the same mechanisms at play where people are drawn to someone with toxic power, precisely because it fills the void left by their own feelings of inadequacy and low self-worth. Their self-deception serves as a clever defense mechanism, a way for them to justify and rationalize their behavior, even when confronted with the brutal reality of what's happening to them. After all, a toxic relationship is like a bad habit. It's often the last thing you want to let go of. What's most tragic is that often these victims are not being fooled by their own delusions, but rather using them to cope with the overwhelming sense of fear that comes with confronting the truth, the fear of being alone, the fear of not being loved, the fear of losing control. Their ego may be compromised, their sense of self battered and bruised by the abuse, but in the end, it's this same ego that's driving them to make excuses for the person who's harming them, because that's the one area where they still feel in control. Their narrative, their justification, their twisted rationalization of it all. Thank you for watching and joining the conversation about the dark dynamics of insecure people drawn to toxic power. I want to leave you with a question: how many times have you seen this pattern play out in your life or relationships, and how can we break free from its destructive grip? If you took something away from this video, let me know in the comments below, like this video, and subscribe for more honest explorations of human psychology.